I recently played Another Code, or also known as Trace Memory in North America. Unfortunately, the copy I purchased did not include the case nor the manual, however, it was fairly cheap, so good times. And today I'm going to be talking about it. So the narrative mechanism is emphasized in the game's North American title with Trace Memory. You play as teenaged Ashley Robbins, whose oldest memory is the murder of her mother. On top of that, her father went into hiding that very same day, abandoning Ashley with her aunt, who is very evasive about what happened that night. Growing up, Ashley is left with only a few fragmented and haunting memories of her parents. But just before her 13th birthday, she receives a strange device and an invitation from her estranged father to reunite with him on the secluded Blood Edward Island. In Another Code, the question is not, why did my father abandon me? It's, why does he want to see me now? So the game's ESRB rating is teen, however it's teen in the same way that The Addams Family is PG-13. While the story involves murder and unnatural death, it excludes unnecessary detail and explores these events in a way that a kid might process them. So despite the more mature themes, Another Code demonstrates a very clear understanding and appreciation for its audience. I think if this game were advertised as for adults, it would encounter a similar issue as Shane Acker's feature-length version of 9, which I believe is more suited to a children's audience than the adult one that the movie was intended for. Given that, I'm going to have to review the narrative structure differently than I would Hotel Dusks, which is a game genuinely for an older audience. I'll still compare them in terms of gameplay because they are fairly similar, but not in certain respects in which I think that they ought not to be compared. Anyways, back to Another Code. So despite the short runtime, it's a very leisurely paced game. The mechanics are very similar to one of Sing's more popular titles, Hotel Dusk, Room 215. Trace Memory was initially released in Japan on February 24th, 2005, almost 2 years before Hotel Dusk got its first release. Hotel Dusk is a bit more polished, but Another Code was released not even a year after the first DS console came out, so I really respect the game's ambition to make full use of the unique dual screen feature. With that in mind, Another Code is more puzzle heavy and includes a lot of ciphers. You aren't posed with anything particularly challenging. The interactive elements for certain puzzles weren't always responsive. However, I will note that there is one puzzle that looks like a Pigpen cipher, but you'll quickly realize that you're supposed to form sort of an analog code by reflecting one screen off of the other. My 2DSL has much larger screens than the original DS, so it wasn't a totally effective puzzle because I couldn't quite fit the lines together, and I did have to sort of guess and check for that one. However, most puzzles translated pretty well. I will say that Hotel Dusk has a much better item collecting system. In Another Code, you can only collect items once you've established that you need them, which results in a lot of backtracking. A feature that might have made this process more efficient could be a progressive map, similar to the one in Silent Hill 2. So a map that would update as you enter each area, and in this case, provide a quick picture or name to remind you of what each room contains. I can see how that might overcomplicate a simple issue, but I'm just trying to be constructive, and it was just a thought I had before I realized how short the game actually was. With regards to the story, for context, while you're searching for your dad in a mansion that's on the island, you encounter a ghost that's nicknamed D, who follows you around, and together you also help him uncover the mysteries and forgotten details of his past. The subplot involving D's backstory, while it takes up a good majority of the runtime, felt a bit peripheral. So sure, there's the sort of Dirk Gently kind of question of, what does D's past have to do with the central character's past? But there's also just the question of, what does D's past have to do with the central character's past? That question doesn't get answered for a while, and it's not significantly linked to Ashley's case and is largely auxiliary to the central conflict. Which is fine. It extends the story's themes of grief and closure, but it takes up so much game time. I was more invested in resolving Ashley's backstory because the clues given for her past were more obviously relevant, whereas the clues given for Dee's past were a bit more non sequitur, so they're either not greatly related to the circumstances of Dee's death, or they're repetitive. It doesn't help that the exposition is often delivered in droning essays that must be read in full every time you revisit them. They don't feel wholly purposeful, which caused me to be significantly less engaged with the story. And that's very unfortunate, because exposition should serve to immerse the audience more deeply, especially in a point-and-click escape room. Parts of the story also aren't effective because we aren't given a reason to appreciate them. Motivations for events, particularly those with regards to the antagonist, are introduced and suggested, but only at the last minute and then dropped. It would be similar to being on a debate team and having the opposing team introduce a completely new argument in their closing speech. As a result, these late additions undermine the story's impact, leaving key elements feeling disconnected and unearned. I know I've been a bit critical so far. Some of the highlights from this game include character design and music. I'm probably playing the music in the background of this video. Also, Ashley's design really takes you back to the late 90s and early 2000s, and I just love her style. Anyways, Another Code is very relaxing, and it does a great job of guiding its audience through these mature themes. While it's a game that has its flaws that Hotel Dusk improved on to some extent, Another Code has some really sincere and atmospheric moments, and I'm very happy to finally have Another Code or Trace Memory in my collection. And thank you guys so much for the support on my last video. Everyone in the comments was so nice, and it really meant a lot to me. I took a look at my analytics, and it said that a couple of you guys come from Germany and Brazil, so vielen Dank fürs Zuhören and gracias por ver. I appreciate all of you guys, and I hope you have a good rest of your day. Peace.